Dun, dun.
Nice guys finish last. Yeah, we're ready to rock out today. Rituals of self-care. That's what we're going to be talking about on today's show. Look at James carrying about his drum set back in the drumming days. All right, here we go. Let's rock this
Back in
joint.
the day, back.
Shut up and sit down.
The Business Bros Podcast was created for you. Learn from the business professionals who come to share their stories. Find out what's working in business and social media, what's hot and what's not, straight from the mouths of successful entrepreneurs out there doing the real work. And now, welcome to another episode of
Business Bros. Yeah, what up, ladies and gents? We're going to go old school on this one. Look at that. We bought the baby blue back. Why not?
Love it, love it, love it.
Why not? All right,
did
dude.
we do the baby blue before? Have we done the yellow in a while?
We did the yellow recently. We got to do the baby
all
blue.
right. Baby blue it is.
All right, dude. Rituals of self-care. So first of all, it was supposed to be rituals of self-care with the guest, but guest didn't show up today. So here we go on our own. I thought, why not keep this? This is kind of a valuable and important topic that we should all be taking care of. So
Ourselves,
right?
we should all be taking care of ourselves.
Well, yes, obviously.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, practicing self-care is different from just taking care of ourselves, right?
All right, how do you define it? What do you mean? When you think self-care, what do you think?
Ooh, I think of putting myself first instead of my work, instead of my spouse, instead of my non-existent kids. But
Except for Katie.
Yeah, no, even Katie. It's putting myself first. It's just, like, what's important to me? What do I need to worry about? For me, a lot of the big thing that comes up right now as I'm talking about it is mental health care. Like,
it's funny, dude. That's been a hot topic a lot lately. I feel like, and you tell me, like, mental health, the issue on mental health has become more mainstream lately than I ever remember it being an issue in the past, right? For the whole idea of genders and the whole idea of groups and segregations and inclusiveness and feeling, a part of something or not feeling a part of something. I feel like there's so much emphasis in a lot of that right now that it's hard to even navigate. I remember hearing this guy on TikTok. He was like, dude, I'm 29 years old and I have this thing in my hand, this cell phone in my hand, and I have the amount of information that sits right here in the palm of my hand is amazing. I know so much because there's so much information right here. The problem is, no matter what I want to know, there's an answer to. If I ask, is the COVID fake? I'm going to find all kinds of things that support that answer. Right. Is COVID real? I'm going to find all kinds of things that support that answer. So in the end, I have so much information that validates every single point of view that I have that I feel like I don't know anything.
I would say check your sources always. Well,
but again, whose sources do you believe, right? So anyways, we're going to deviate on that, of course, because we're going to go on a whole other tangent. But when it comes to the self-care thing, that's another aspect of it, right? So your mental health. At what point is your mental health your issue versus somebody else's issue?
It's never somebody else's issue. It's always yours.
That's what I say, right? That's what I say. But how come it becomes part of everybody else's society issues? Like, for example, I'll give you an example. The gender thing. His, hers, him, her, pronouns, right? That's a societal thing. That's something that all of a sudden you're presenting because you want to be identified as something in particular, right? But it's because it's a benefit to your mental health because you feel better about or you want to be decided upon or called upon a certain way, recognized a certain way,
validated
a certain way, which makes your mental health placed the result of your mental health placed on what other people see and what other people use.
Okay.
right? So what can I do on a regular basis? What can I do? Because not everybody's going to acknowledge that, right? Like if you go out and you are structured like a male but you want to be identified as a female, right? If that's what you are, but you get commonly called,
that's not how it works.
Okay, but it does, right?
I guess okay, so we're just saying is like if I put on a wig and wear a dress but I don't shave, I otherwise look male, but because of the clothes that I'm wearing, you assume that I want to be called she.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is the assumption, right? Whether or not I'm doing it on purpose, right? Or because there are people on both sides. There are people who are just gonna be like, look, dude, you're a dude. I don't care what you've gone through, what transitions or what you're going through. You're a dude. I'm gonna call you a dude, right? Some people are just flat out like that. Or the other way around, where it's pure ignorance. We don't know any better. We just look and we make an assumption, and that's what that's what we call, right? So as the person who is I don't know, transitioning or whatever you want to call it, how do they deal with that? What can they do to make themselves better on a day-to-day when they don't have control over what other people are doing or saying?
Well, I mean, in the example that you just gave, right, there's the person who is just, you're a dude, I'm always going to call you a dude, and that's just how it is. That person's an asshole. And there's nothing that you can really do about that except stay away from that person. Don't interact.
There's always assholes.
Right? There's always assholes, and they're going to exist, and whatever.
How many assholes are here anyways?
Yo! But then, on the other side, you said somebody who's ignorant. And the Maya Angelou line that I always quote is, it's okay to be ignorant, right? But once you know better, you do better. If you're the type of person that is going to not care and keep doing, keep calling somebody who wants to be referred to as they, them, as he or she or whatever, right? If you're just going to keep doing it because you don't care and that's just how you see them and you're not going to change, then you're an asshole. If you're willing to change and, work with that person, then you're a decent human being and kudos to you.
Okay. Fair on the other side. But my question was more on, now is it a mental issue that you are dealing with, or are you placing that on society? Like, what can we do? Because I mean, our topic is ritual of self-care, right? So the person who's going through this, right, who's trying to push this transition onto, society, how do they deal? I mean, you've talked to a lot of people on your show that deal with a lot of things like this, and this is one of the reasons why I'm bringing it up. What kinds of things can they do on a regular basis? What kinds of things have they done on a regular basis to deal with, well, let's face it, to deal with assholes or ignorance?
A lot of it, I can't really speak to it because it's not my experience. I won't ever have to go through it. And I don't necessarily have to deal with it. And I don't always, I may not have all the answers. What I can tell you from, some of the people that I know that, have gone through it, some of the conversations that I've had, is exactly what I'm talking about. People that are ignorant and refuse to change, they just cut them out of their lives because that's self-care. I have seen many stories of somebody who's transitioning whose parents refuse to call them by anything else. No, you're not Michelle. I named you Michael, right? You are Michael. You are always going to be Michael, and I'm not going to change and blah, blah, blah. People cut their own parents out of their lives for the sake of their mental health.
And it's not just that situation. There's a lot of times that it happens with alcoholism, drugs, abuse.
Yes. Yeah. Whatever it is, like if somebody is causing pain in your life, whether it's by abuse, alcoholism, those things that you're talking about, or not calling you by the right name, pronouns, etc., like self-care means cutting that person out of your life.
Let's keep going with cutting people out of your life. I remember we had Ali on the podcast, right? A wad of cash, right? A wad.
Oh yeah.
Ali Awad. And he said on the show that life is a revolving door. not everyone is meant to be in your life forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this situation happens, and we're talking about ritual self-care and cutting people out of your life. What about where if we're not so dramatic, right? So we went to the extreme right now with transitioning genders and all that stuff. What about just regular people in your life? People that you grew up with, that are your friends, that you went to high school with, that you hung out with, but are content with life, right? They're happy where they are, and they do not want to, they don't have any ambitions to go anywhere or do anything, right? But you do. Maybe you do, right? Do you cut these people out and not necessarily like kick them to the curb forever, but do you tend to do you surround yourself with people who are more in line with you and your way of thinking and your ambitions and your goals?
I feel like you could actually speak to this better than I could, because for me, I mean, I got out of the Navy in 2013, and when I came home, I was hanging out with you, and a lot of the people that I hang out with or have hung out with have tended to be like just family, and I guess I don't have a lot of friends. But I feel like during the time that I was in the Navy, you went through a lot of transitions in your life. You started getting more hyper focused, and I know you always talk about the crabs, people who were pulling you down and not telling you that you could achieve the things that you wanted to achieve. So what was your experience with that? Like, as you're trying to get better and you're building businesses and you're creating your passive income and all these things that you've been doing, did you ever cut anybody out of your life that just wasn't going where you were going?
I think it's not so much that we cut people out. I think for me, it was more like I made time for others, right? Like there's people, I mean, Melly's one of our closest friends. We grew up together,
Right.
her kid's my goddaughter, but I don't see her very often, right? Once in a blue moon. Some of the same kids and people that we grew up with as kids, I rarely see them, hardly talk to them, right? And it's not that I wouldn't. It's not that I wouldn't have a conversation or do anything. It's just I don't go out of my way and reach out to communicate with them because we're on different life paths. You know what I mean? Like it's different, right? So I only have 24 hours in a day. And my intention is to, initially it was, pipeline insurance walked into my life. And this is something that I was like, dude, this is cool. I need to build this. And so I surrounded myself with everything in the insurance space. So I would go to networking events and seminars and trainings and, everything I could possibly get my hand on to learn what I possibly could in this industry because I knew nothing. So I would intentionally open up my time for people in that space. If you were in that space and you were going to teach me something, this is how I met Saul, right? So, by the way, check out his stuff on TGI Viernes. It's one of my favorite things that he does every Friday with his son. But that's how I met Saul, right? I mean, I was going golfing on a regular basis and hanging out with people in different spaces and learning all kinds of cool stuff about, taxes and insurance and how it relates to the finance, to personal finance and business finance and structuring estate plans and all kinds of stuff because I wanted to immerse myself and learn that stuff. So when you talk about self-care, what is it that you want? And at that time, I wanted to build a company and learn more about it and be good at it. And so I opened up my door to people in that space, and everybody else, they got what was left over. They got the Saturday afternoons at a birthday party time.
Right.
They got the dinner at family functions time, but it wasn't me reaching out. Right. And it's funny because at that point you kind of feel like an asshole, right? Like, wait, you're not going to pick up the phone. You're not going to call me. It's just, I don't know, man.
You got better things to do.
And it's not even like that, right? It's not even like better
More important
things to do. Well, it's I prioritize things a little bit different. And my argument to them is always, hey, bro, the phone rings both ways, right? Like you can pick up the phone and call me and I'll answer and I'll have, we'll talk and we'll do that stuff. But I'm not going out of my way because it's deviating from my path. Right. And so, going back to this ritual of self-care, what is it that you want? What is it that you're trying to achieve? So when Pipeline came out, that was the goal. That's what I was trying to achieve. Right now, I think I'm trying to redefine. Yesterday I had a conversation with Celine, and we're talking about some funnel creation stuff and some ad stuff. And as we're talking about how this whole thing's laying out, I'm like, dude, there's so many gaps that I still have in this process. I mean, process gaps, staffing gaps, like all these different things that are involved. And so I'm as I'm looking through it, and I'm we're listing the things out that we need to get done. I'm stepping back and I'm like, is this the next thing I want to build? Because this looks like a lot of work for me. Do I want to build another company that starts off with this much workload for me, or do I need to step back and look at this process and say, how do I fill these gaps when it's not me doing the work, right? And so in the last 6 months, I've surrounded myself with marketing people, geniuses, right? Why? Because I know that advertising and marketing is the piece that I'm missing in all my businesses that could take all my businesses to another level, right? So that's the piece that I need to focus in on. So I'm spending all my time when I'm running, I'm either listening to something that's going to motivate me, or I'm listening to an audiobook, and it's probably on creating ads or headlines or some corny stuff like that everybody else wouldn't care about. But that's what I care about. That's what's going to help me reach my ultimate, my goal, right? I'm starting to look at things like, dude, making $1 million in a year doesn't seem so far off. Like to have an $83,000 month. Holy crap. Like that's getting closer to doable, right? Yeah. I'm starting to see numbers that are resembling close to those types of things on a regular basis on the gross line, which means that I'm getting closer to it on the net line, right? When you're talking about P&Ls. So, being able to do those things comes from taking the time in my day and focusing it on what is it that I want to achieve and prioritizing those things, and everything else gets cut off, right? Everything else. So let's
so shift for you, self-care is really about pursuing your goals.
It's definitely about pursuing my goals, right? I'll do another one, and this one you can chime in on too. Part of what I've been doing is taking care of my body itself, right? This is the 240 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, 6-mile run that I do every single day. That part of my self-care. The reason that came about is because when we started doing the podcast, I would look at our episodes and look at myself and be like, whoa, I'm a little round here. Right? And you know how they say the camera adds 10 pounds? And when we were doing the live shows, we had like 3 cameras. So
you're like, oh shit, it's adding 30 pounds.
It's adding like 30 pounds, right? So, I would see myself and I'm like, I could do that better. Right? I can be better. And if I'm going to show up behind a camera, if I'm going to show up on stage, if I'm going to shake hands with people, if I'm going to be connecting with people in a marketing space behind a camera, I should probably look more the part, right? I should probably get in better space. And so that was my motivating factor to start doing things. Well, I mean, why did
physical exercise counts as self-care?
It counts as self-care. When you were in the Navy, dude, there was a time when you came back after a deployment. And dude, you were like shredded, dude. You were like,
that's because I was doing 2-a-days and skipping dinner.
Yeah, I mean, it was nuts, dude. When you came back, I was like, damn, dude, you should go out to sea more often.
That was a really good deployment for me. I had an actual 12-hour schedule, 7 to 7, and like I said, I was doing 2-a-days at the gym, and I was skipping dinner, so. I was lean and cut and doing all that stuff, looking good. But there was another time. The reason why that deployment, I was so set on it was because a year earlier, I was at the heaviest I'd ever been. I cracked the 170 mark, right?
Ooh, that's big for you.
That's big for me. Like I had never ever been that heavy. 170 is like definitely a lot for me. I'm usually around nowadays I'm usually around 160, but like at 22 years old when I joined the Navy, I was usually around 135, 140.
That was all the peanut butter and jelly.
From those years before. Yep. But now, like today, self-care for me still includes uh physical fitness. In our 5 a.m. call, shout out to the Justice League, I'm always there stretching,
Mhm.
because stretching just feels amazing. First of all, it makes, all of my muscles, all of my joints, it just, I feel limber. um and you know like doing just that, if I don't stretch for a few days, like I skipped stretching for 3 days last week. On that fourth day, I was like, oh, this sucks, I feel
Body
horrible,
tightens up.
body's all tightened up. And um didn't enjoy my Sunday quite as much as I otherwise would. But that's part of it. Running for me is a huge thing. I did 16 miles today. That's my longest
Training for
run
that
ever.
marathon.
Training for a marathon. That was my longest run ever. But like you, click on an audiobook and just jamming away, staying consistent in my times, right around that 9 minute, 9:30 mile. And you know, those are things that I think are absolutely self-care. And one of the things about it is, on a day like today, where I ran 16 miles, uh, writing the intro for my guest on my podcast, writing the intro for the guest that we would have had on this podcast, that's the most that I was going to do.
Mm.
Running 16 miles takes a lot out of me. And I've learned, from my other longer runs, never as long as this, but my other long run days, that after a long run, I'm not going to be productive. And taking care of myself means saying, yep, this is a non-productive day, work wise. I'm going to get home. I'm going to relax. I'm going to do the things that I absolutely have to do, but nothing more.
I love that though. Like, to me, that's super powerful because we had this discussion the other day on the show, but you and I talk about this all the time. The lazy entrepreneur, right? The lazy entrepreneur. So
That's me.
not that you're lazy in that you're not willing to do work. It's that you're taking time that you dedicate to production, and then you're also taking into account time that you're dedicating to you. Right? This is your self-care stuff, right? This is
Right.
what you want. You're able to go on a 16-mile run on a Wednesday, right? Because of the work that you've put in as an entrepreneur, because of the systems and processes you put in place to operate your business. You're giving yourself that time to do that. Right? Like, that's a powerful way to look at like an entrepreneur. Like, you don't have to do everything. You don't have to be the busiest and the one who wears all the hats and do all the work. And there's pride in, the work that you've put in. Yes, that's great. But you got into business for time.
Yep.
So, developing those systems and processes so that your business operates without you, that's the key there. All right, I want to make sure I do some other rituals of self-care. Journaling.
Hell yes.
Journaling. Tell me what journaling has done for you in your life.
Introspection is I don't know. I don't think that I could function without being introspective. Like, I've been journaling since I was 14 years old. Mind you, from like 14 until 30. Maybe not quite that bad, but especially in my younger years, from like 14 to, let's just say, 2021, my journals were all about, why doesn't she love me? And I'm just trying to find the one, and this, that, and the other. And all that. So,
the
like,
bleeding
there's a
heart
lot
pages?
of, yeah. Oh my God, so many bleeding heart pages. And not that it got, a ton better in my early 20s, because I was still chasing that one girl. But, over the years, I can always look back and see the different ways that I've grown. Even looking at those journals, even that far back, like, I can still see growth from the things that I learned over even that time. You know, ways that I've let go of different beliefs, that ways that I have grown in, I guess, the ways that I love or accept love or whatever. Like, there's a lot of growth that can be seen through the journals. And even if I don't look back at it, journaling is just, let me get all of these thoughts that are bouncing around like mad, like crazy atoms in my head. Let me just put them down on paper where I can read it in a straight line and it makes sense. You, however, have been journaling in a much different way. You've been doing 2-a-day journals.
I haven't been doing 2 a day. I haven't been doing 2 a day lately. I've only been doing the one. But it's funny, dude, because just like you had bleeding heart pages. At the very least, I document my day. This is what I did. This is what I accomplished.
Okay.
This is what I want to accomplish. Right. At the very least, if I have
you're doing it at night.
I'm doing it at night. Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta make sure at the very least I'm journaling one page in my journal every night. Right. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's more. I mean, I got pads of paper and another journal, and I got journals all over the place now that I just write in. Right. But at the very least, on a consistent level, it's that 1 page a day. And really, really what it does is it gives me closure to my day. It gives me the ability to reflect and say, dude, I sucked at this, or I was exhausted, but this is what I still accomplished today. Mm-hmm. And this is what I need to accomplish the next day. Right. So at the very least, I'm doing that. And then when I do write in my journal in the morning, this is what I'm going to take on today. This is what I'm grateful for. Like, this is why I'm happy. This is why I'm here. And it gives me that energy of like, when I walk around campus at school or anywhere and people are like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, dude, another beautiful day in paradise. Like, that's my response almost every single time, because what am I complaining about?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, when I write down in my journal, if there's anything that I'm troubling with, I've already let it out on those pages. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't have to carry it with me. It's kind of like the same reason why I wake up in the morning and take a shit, because I don't want to carry the shit from the previous day with me into the next day. Right? Like, that's part of what journaling allows me to do. It's figuratively dumping my shit on paper so that I don't have to take it with me. And then I line myself up with what I'm going to conquer that day, or what I've accomplished.
I got a question for you on that. Where or how do you, what's the correlation to you between having clear goals and self-care?
Ooh, that's a tough, because I do have like my goals for 2021. I see them all the time. And then, I mean, it's hard to see on my on my phone, especially with all the notifications. But essentially, like, they show up on my screen every single time. So I see them all the time, every single day that I have my phone, because it's the thing that I want to make sure that I like. It's always a reminder. This is what I should be doing. This is what I could be working on. This is what I could be doing to improve my life. So it's funny, because I feel like my goals haven't really shifted that much. I've identified them, but I could improve on that. And I'm not very good at having long-term goals, but I'm really good at conquering my daily goals. You know what I mean? And my daily goals have been pushing me towards that same thing. Like, I know, we talked about this the other day. We're like, hey, business is doing good. I'm going to start paying this or doing this. I'm like, dude, I just want the car lease on the next one. Right.
Right.
And because on my board, it's buy the Tesla. Right. Like, that's what's on my board for this 2021 year. Right. That's one of them. Right. Podcasting revenue at $6,000 a month. Like, that's the goal for the 2021 year. Right. And so I'm progressing on those things because I know that my daily tasks are getting me closer to there. And it's funny because my actual podcast revenue goal isn't even close to the 6,000, but the real estate has taken off this year. Right? so it's funny how, some things, life never really plays out the way you want it to. Right. And that's something that I've come to grips with, that you really don't have control over how your life actually plays out. You have a good idea of how to guide it in a direction that you want to go in. But at the end of the day, dude, like, anything can happen. You could be walking down the street, get hit by a car, and now you can't walk anymore. Or worse, you're not even around anymore. Right? I mean, those are like some worst case scenarios, but stuff like that happens to people all the time. You know, I was listening to David Goggins the other day, and he was talking about how you know, you should callous your mind and do something different all the time. He's like, if you run every single day, go flip tires, right? And the reason why you do that is because your mind is getting stronger. You're telling your mind that you're in control, not that your mind is in control. Your mind is not telling you that it's tired, so you don't do it. You go do something different. And he said the reason why he calluses his mind is so that he can take on things that he doesn't know are coming. So he's prepared. So when he gets that phone call that his mom died, that he doesn't just break into shambles and get destroyed, right? He's able to push forward on these things, even though it'd be gruesome, horrible, you know, he'd be sad, of course, and, you know, all those different things. He's helped callous his mind to do better. And he does it through physical, you know, through his conditioning. He does it through his discipline. He does it through, you know, whatever he needs to do, that he's in control of his mind. And I forgot what your original question was, but that's kind of how I see my journaling. That's kind of how I see my running. I hate running. I'm consistent. That's my only superpower, right? I'm consistent. I do it every day. Well, 5 days a week anyways, but I don't like it. But I know that when I do it, I feel better at the end of the day. When I journal, I feel better at the end of the day. You know, I take 2 showers a day, one at night to wash off that day before, and one in the morning to get myself going. Of course, I'm sweaty, so I definitely need to take a shower in the morning. But you know that it's so you know, there's the rituals that I have, my routines, my rituals help push me and propel me in the direction that I want to go.
Yep, and that's basically what it was. You know, the question was how long your goals relate to self-care. Having clear goals relates to self-care, and you have them, at least, you know, your daily goals. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely like something that I'm struggling with a little bit, I guess. Is redefining my clear goals. You know how I've had that vivid vision for a long time?
Yeah, it's kind of changed a little bit, huh?
It's changed a little bit, and it's not clear anymore. And so that's actually one of the things that I'm going to talk with my mastermind group next week when we meet, to kind of rekindle that fire, reignite that vivid vision passion.
Well, I've been thinking about something, because, you know, in thinking about, do I go full force into a marketing agency? Do I really want to build a company from scratch again and start over and build all those processes? Well, that's been going in my head. So one thing I want to drop in your head is, what if we build something that cash flows, but not necessarily works hard, right? So if
always
we take
what we want,
always what we want. But my thought was, we've interviewed over 700 people on the show, all of them business owners, right? And when we talked to, most recently, I forgot her name already. Most recently, who's on the show? Just, I don't even have my calendar up. What's up with that? But
Suzanne.
she was no, not Suzanne. Right before Suzanne,
Midori.
Yes, Midori. We were talking to Midori, and she talked about how her coaching business is more like a management system, right? And how she's like, look, I sit down and I talk to people and I figure out where their problems are. And I was like, so do I. That's awesome. And then she's like, and I place them with professionals who can help them. So I was thinking, you know, if you talk to your mastermind and see how you feel about this, if we created our preferred vendor list, just like we have our own preferred vendor list for stuff that we do, but they're Business Bros people, and we set something up where now we can talk to business owners on a regular basis. I can set up my calendar pretty easily if I just reach out to our existing guests and be like, look, what are you struggling with your business? What do you need help with? And then place them with those services that are they're people who are already doing the work. So
they've probably already been on the show.
They've been on the show, but maybe they're a professional. Like, for example,
I'm saying the people that you would place them with is probably somebody
probably people who have been on the show. Yeah, professionals of those places. So, So I was thinking of that more along the lines of than the marketing agency. It's still kind of the same thing. I'm generating leads, but I'm doing less of the work and more of the relationship building.
Hell yeah.
So I don't know. I was going to drop it in your mind. This is usually a conversation that we have after the show, but
right. I mean, hey, why not? We're here. people are listening, and this is the kind of brainstorming that we do. And
This
for
is
me,
it.
I'm like, hell yeah, that sounds awesome. But what's my role? We can talk more about that later, though.
Yeah, we'll talk about more about that later. But still, so I was thinking, how do we structure that? And that's I think that is your role. This is how we structure it. But
All right,
anyways,
let's figure it out.
We'll figure it out. So
Fun
all
stuff.
right.
We're always trying something new.
Always, right? Even if it works, we're like, yay, and then we keep going, or we say no and we restructure it or do something else. One of those
Make
two
it better.
things. All right, ladies and gents, that's all we got for you guys today. Make sure you guys stick to your rituals. What are the things that are going on in your life that you do not like right now? Do you not like the way you look in the mirror? Do you not like the way your bank account looks? Are you struggling to build a better relationship with people? I don't know, whatever it is. You need to take a hard look in the mirror because your habits and your routines, the rituals that you have in your life have put you in the position where you are today. And if it's not that, if you're one of those unfortunate people who just have a really bad circumstance, your habits and your rituals can help you get out of that also as quickly as possible. So figure out what that stuff is, and then let's create new habits and move forward together. If you guys have any questions, make sure you hit us up at Business Bros Pod or James at Practicing Paulie A. We'd love to talk to you more about that. Peace out, y'all. We'll see you again mañana.
Thank you for listening to the Business Bros Podcast. Are you looking to get more clients or to increase your income? Hernan, the business bro, can help you generate referrals through the power of podcasting. And James, the insurance bro with Pipeline Insurance, can help you effectively add insurance to your existing business. If you are ready to create wealth today and generational wealth for tomorrow, email businessbros@csfirst.com to schedule a free consultation or join the Business Bros Network, www.businessbros.biz.